So, is camo really like men's version of cheetah print?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things that it's your mood.
Your primal.
Yeah, like a primal
I'm on
thing.
a hunt.
Like I'm on a hunt, or I need to just blend in with random shit.
It's funny because people in camo never blend in.
With where they at?
Neither do women in cheetah, leopard,
There was
zebra.
that one camo that people was rocking for a while that was red. I was like, where are you gonna fucking hide a fire? I don't understand why you're wearing
Yeah,
red
well, they have
camouflage.
red, blue,
Well, the blue used to be that was like SWAT.
gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand where they was trying to hide out at.
Yeah.
But I do think that works with what we're talking about today, because we're talking about parenting, and there's like a certain there's a certain age where all women phase into, if they're a certain type of woman.
That's right.
Phases into their cheetah print.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And then men of a certain age, we probably been rocking camo forever, but it just come out more.
Yeah.
We got like dad shorts that are camouflage now and shit.
Y'all start layering.
Layers of camouflage.
I sent you a picture today, as a matter of fact. Let me pull it up.
Oh, shit.
So, it was of me.
Oh, I was like, what's you saying?
And I sent it in our family chat.
Yes. Yeah, that's fly.
Head
you
to
gotta put it for the camera.
We'll make sure.
Head to toe.
Head to toe.
Cheetah flage.
And I don't even be knowing what animal it is. I don't care. I just want you to know I am
fierce.
Yeah, be afraid. I'm not afraid to wear this. So parenting. Okay, here we are with child number 4.
Royal Fetish.
How's it? How are you adjusting?
Everything I feel like is adjusting well, except I don't know. I guess for me, like, people always talk about losing sleep, but I'm an insomniac, so it's like the times that I'm going to sleep is usually like it's perfect timing to change a baby.
I am not an insomniac.
And you are losing sleep.
I am losing sleep, and it's not actually like her being up crying or anything, as much as it is not being comfortable, because they both are like sandwiching me in this hot heater mom sandwich. It's the positioning in the bed, them both wanting to breastfeed, and I've never done that before.
Both of them are little batteries.
They are, and they're hot. Yeah, that's been the tough part.
But other than that, I do think like it's.
She looking at you like.
What else you got to say?
Say something.
I think like we're now getting back into things like the podcast and all of that, and so many people reach out that are also parents or also interested in having kids.
Yeah.
That I think all these adjustments, especially for the work we do, they need to be shared and documented.
Definitely needs to be documented. Yeah, it's not ideal bringing your newborn to
a podcast
recording at studio level quality. But what are we gonna do?
Yeah,
we gotta work just like everybody else, because this is the politics of this show. In this godforsaken country, there is no maternity leave or true maternity and paternity leave where you actually get paid or you're supplemented or supported by your government in your country to have beautiful citizens of that country.
Or your job.
Yeah.
So they expect you to get right back to it.
Right. And
which also leads to things like children needing to be on formula during the time of formula shortage, because women can't be there.
Yeah. Can't pump.
Can't breastfeed.
Right. Yeah. So we're very privileged to work for ourselves in all the many ways that we do. But to be able to do that, to be an entrepreneur in this day and age, you have to keep going. Like, you have to keep, especially as content creators, we have to keep producing content. we're also very, I mean, so it's like a privilege, but there's a lot of work that goes with upholding that.
I was talking about that with one of our daughters the other day,
What was that?
and she was talking about not wanting to work for a company.
Mm-hmm.
And she's interested in computers and things like that. And I was like, there's a lot of shit you can do with computers, be a freelancer and all kinds of stuff like that. But no, for a company, you might work 9 to 5.
Right.
If you work for yourself, it's 24/7.
Word. Yeah.
Like you go to sleep working, you wake up working, and yeah, you might not have to answer to somebody else, but you got to put in a lot of work to do so.
Oh my gosh, answering to yourself is the worst. It's just like you can't lie, you can't, excuse. You can't put it off to tomorrow.
All right, so that's why I was like, no, it's not. I was there with you, motherfucking self. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Being I want us to talk about, obviously, just like parenting in general, because I think sometimes people think that our life as parents, either because we work for ourselves, we work for home, or the type of work we do is so different than their experience, and in most ways it's not. But then I also want to talk about the ways that it is.
For sure.
And so we got like a bunch of questions that that our wonderful producer Orlando pulled from the field for us to get into. But for those who perhaps, I don't know how you cannot know, because we are so open in sharing our family. We have 4 children, a 21-year-old daughter, and going to be 18 by the time this is released, an 18-year-old daughter, and a 4-year-old son, and a 1-month-old new daughter. Yeah. And I know, that's a crazy range. Brand new. And we're just slightly under 30. Nah. And I mean, that's been kind of cool too, the experience of being a young parent, and then now the experience of being a more, what did the doctor call us, seasoned parent. Seasoned. I mean, that's a compliment, because don't nobody like unseasoned anything. And it comes with its pros and its cons. I think things like, I could handle sleepless nights a lot easier as a younger person, but as an older person, I can adjust my schedule accordingly to where my day starts at 11. So, that's cool. What are some things? I know that your parenting journey started a little bit later, about 8 years later than mine, give or take. But what are some things that you find are different now that you are a seasoned parent versus just jumping in the game?
Oh man, when you're first a parent, you kind of have all those things that you were your whole life. I'm gonna be this type of dad. I'm gonna be this type of father, whatever. And then you realize, none of that shit mean nothing
to this individual.
To this new individual. They're like, nope.
I want that kind of dad.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, you realize that all of your children are their own individual people. This past Father's Day, I did a live and someone asked me, like, what's the most important, like, gem you have received as a father? And that's really it. It's like, I can guide you, but I can't walk that path for you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can try and share all the knowledge you have accumulated over this time or whatever. They might not be listening.
Right.
Or they might have soaked it all up, but not in the way you wanted them to. Or they don't apply it the way you want them to. So I think it's like, now that I'm older, and I can't say I still don't hold on to some of that. Like there's still things that I want for my children. That's never gonna change. But I do think I'm more open to, like, one, you're gonna learn a whole lot from your kids.
Right.
Not just about them, but about yourself, about the world around you. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm the father. I'm here to, try to protect you, make sure your life is as good as possible. But at the same time, I'm not the only teacher here.
Yes, yeah. That was such a relief to learn, honestly.
Yeah.
And to rely on other people to support you in, and also rely on that child to find, like, what's your best learning style? Who do you learn well from? How do you learn? If it's not me, can you can you how do you say it? Can you assure me that you will learn it from somewhere? You know? And I think I learned that with our second daughter. I was not her best teacher. And finally when I sort of like accepted that, that's like we just had like a much easier flowing relationship. And I'm talking about having an easy flowing relationship with a 6-year-old who is, you know, turned out to be a great job. We don't get in her way of learning. But yeah. So wait a minute. Now you mentioned Father's Day. Now, you know them kids not gonna let you live down.
I got the best gift for Father's Day.
You really did.
Like
it
was my kids did the ultimate flex this year, and
I mean they shitted on Mother's Day with your Father's Day. I want that on record.
I got a billboard that said I'm the best dad. One in Tampa, and one in Jersey, up by the Jersey Turnpike and shit. Like,
yeah, that's wild.
Hudson County all day, 201. What's up?
They were
back home. So like, and leading up to, it's like you have to be. It's like one of those digital joints, whatever. So it's like you have to be at a specific spot at this time where the kids are gonna cry.
Yes.
So I had to make sure with my
insomnia
that I would get to this specific spot by in Tampa to see like as it changed over.
And you did.
And yo, that was so nice.
They were like the world needs to know.
I know that was moving, and I think you rarely get those moments in parenthood where
Especially
you're just like,
dad.
all the shit I did, yeah. Thank you for that billboard. Like that was awesome. That
really
was like
cool.
the best gift ever right there.
They're good kids.
They are, and I think my journey as a young person and with my mother, being raised by my mother and my grandmother, and at a certain point, my mom's had to kind of be like this with me, you know, and I think that the journey I had to take to become the man that I am helps me with the kids in the sense of like you know, like with you did all the things you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Like high school, college.
I was not supposed to do no porn.
Wait, I said you did. I didn't say you were doing all the things you're supposed to do. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but like educationally and like plus getting all the degrees and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't take that route. And I feel like, you know, there's been times with not even just my own kids, but like nieces, nephews, god kids, all that. Like, I've been able to talk to the kids in a different kind of way because it's like, yo, I didn't do it this way, but I had to learn some things in some very, very tough ways.
Right.
Or there are alternatives, but I wish that when I was working my alternative path, I also did X, Y, and Z to back me up. And you have the opportunity to do the shit that's going to back you up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that together as a parental unit, we have two kind of different angles that's super helpful for them.
I know for me, watching my sisters take some of those alternative routes was very helpful. I was just like, that seems like a hard. Ooh, you're not getting a lot of support in that decision. So it did, and I see that with at least with our two older ones, where they really are like learning from, you know, the older one has learned from she grew up sort of like watching me grow up. And then you see the second one, you know, and I think it's really cool. Our kids are close, even though they have a large age gap, but they're still like influencing each other. And I see them being a close unit all the way through.
True. So
we can kind of cruise like in our late 50s. And we can kind of check out a little bit.
We'll take a cruise.
Yes.
That's what we can do.
So let's get into a little bit more about our profession and how really Porn and Parenting, that brand, came to be. Our daughters do dope, daughters of porn entertainers, and really celebrate our family.
That did sound kind of wild. Our daughters do dope.
Well,
that sounded wild.
That's why you got to listen to the podcast all the way through, because you're going to leave with misinformation. Daughters of porn entertainers, because people always ask us, like, what do you think is going to happen with your kid? Well, ask them. They're old enough to talk about it now.
Yeah.
And they're having such a unique experience where many families in our industry are so stigmatized that they don't have a voice. It's like our kids can get up and say if they want to, our parents are entertainers in the adult industry and this is our experience, but many people have had to lie about what their families do or have their own shame about what their families do or just kind of shut that part of their experience. Parents the same too, where they don't share that they have children. And in our bold fashion, as well as our family's bold fashion, we've chosen to share all aspects of our lives.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Scary too.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is like people think that there's supposed to be some sort of shame that our children are supposed to feel because of our profession. And I'm like, that's not it.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I would understand like if your parents handle evictions and throw cancer patients and grandparents out of their homes for a living. Like, you should be ashamed of that shit.
Yeah.
But
of your parents, not of yourself. Unless you think that that's okay, then you should be ashamed of yourself too, child.
But I do think how it came to be was so many times when people did find out that we have kids, then that led to one question after another. Mm-hmm. And those questions that people ask usually reveals a lot about themselves and how they themselves feel about sex, their own sexuality, their own watching of porn. Because a lot of this shit would happen. We'd be at something like Exotica or some kind of convention or something, and people would, after we've given a lecture about something completely different, they're running down all these other questions.
Right.
So like, okay, well, we should address that. And a lot of times it really has to do with how people were raised around what they feel about sex. So that's how we started with porn and parenting, sex positive parenting, because if you're raised the proper way,
right,
to understand that sex is not a bad thing, it's not a terrible thing, there are places and times for it, you grow up with less shame attached to it, and then you're not going to try to place that shame on somebody else's kids.
That has been a really important part to me about the brand, is that while we may take some hits about being so open and leave ourselves and our families vulnerable, it is a sacrifice that I'm willing to be vulnerable in this way, because I do believe that the more people see families like ours, the more they can sort of have an understanding of like, oh, that this is a human on the other side of this cam or whatever kind of sex work you engage with. This is, or this child can grow up to be just fine. Like, I don't need to call Department of Children and Families because this family is in the adult industry, because I now have a model of a family that functions quite well. We function really well.
Yeah.
Meeting each other's needs. We're not causing trouble for other people, so.
Like I would say it's like this, number one, other than a podcast, you know what I'm saying? Anything that we do on set, our kids aren't there.
Right.
It's not a place for children. It's like any kind of job that is an adult job. Number one, keep your kids away from that shit. I think that, and then also the sense of a lot of parents, a lot of people give their kids way more credit than they deserve. Your kids don't give a fuck what you do with your job.
They really
They
don't.
really do not. They're like, are you feeding me? Are you clothing me? Are you paying for my toys, games, or whatever your kid enjoys? But they don't care about the ins and outs of what you do at the office. They don't give a shit.
No.
They really don't. And it's not to say your kids are assholes or anything like that, but it is like, when you're 7 or shit, even when you're like 16, you really, most children don't fully understand what their parents go through in order to keep a roof over their heads and food in their stomachs until they have to do the shit for themselves. Yeah. And then they're like, wow, my parents really loved me. They really went above and beyond to make sure I lived a good life. So I think that's number one. Number two is we also make sure that we don't speak inappropriately. Like, everything is age appropriate to our kids. Like, when they ask what we do for a living, it can be entertaining, It could be, recording a podcast. These are things that we do for our living. So, it doesn't have to get into detail.
No. And we also don't have to lie to our children. I think that is also important. People have a hard time understanding, like, well, how do you have an age appropriate conversation about working in the adult industry with, like, at the time, like a 12-year-old? It's that I am in the adult entertainment industry, but the keyword is adult. So
Yeah.
you'll never see any of my work, and it's like, oh, okay, like she knew enough to know that that was material that she wasn't interested in, and that we didn't need to go into the details of it. With our older child, when she became of age, then there was more, the dialogue broadened up
Yeah.
to things that were appropriate to talk about. And usually it still wasn't about our work. It was about her own sexual exploration or things that she heard and wanted a better understanding of. And she knew she could ask us those things because she knew a little bit more information about the type of work that we did.
Right.
So I'm going to go to some of the questions that have come up.
All right.
And see where it takes us. All right. So how do our parents feel about our profession? Oh, I like this. Yes. Yeah.
You gonna go first?
Sure. I have like a military type policy. Don't ask, don't tell. So my parent is, one second. Okay. My parent is my mother, and she's who raised me, and she is my still very, very much in my life and in my children's life, our day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows what I do, but she also doesn't want to know the details. And she also just wants to know, how the hell are we going to make enough money for her to enjoy her life? She is super supportive without making herself uncomfortable or making me uncomfortable with discussing the details. And like, that's cool, it works for us. I may share with her pictures that I think are appropriate.
Like that leopard. I mean
The cheetah print.
joint,
Yeah, stuff like that. That's like sexy, or that is artistic. And she'll still say like, oh, you don't have enough clothes. And I'll be like, oh, wait till you see the rest of them. And she'll just be like, again,
End the conversation.
that's it. And we'll kind of laugh it off.
Yeah.
The most in-depth conversation that we've really had was me asking her what was the Filipino name for specifically a submissive. For some reason, I needed to know that particular information, and she was able to share with me like that there is, there's a particular name for it, and that there was someone in our family who used to have like a relationship like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And that was the end of the conversation. And I was like, oh, because that's pretty much like what I do for work, And she was just like, oh, okay, So about that money, run me my check. How about for you?
My mother she wants to write like sex novels
And
right now. She's
yes.
like asking like,
Yes.
what was she saying that we need to? She was saying like, you guys should read. You could make money reading like sexy novels or something like that when she found out we was coming to do the podcast.
Yeah.
My mother actually is, well, she always will be to me, but her job was, she was a health professor and health activist.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother used to teach nurses how to teach sex education in Jersey in the schools. So she did that. She also worked with different community programs in Jersey and New York for, like raising AIDS awareness or like outreach to get people condoms and all kinds of shit like that. So she's like super comfortable. She had, those important conversations with me when I was young about protection and things like that. So she be having jokes. The funniest shit ever was I was shooting somewhere and they forgot, like they lost all my bags. So I was calling, she's like, just letting her know I landed, and I was like, yo, they lost all my bags. She's like, good thing you don't need clothes for your job. You know what I'm saying? I was like, God damn. She be Any opportunity. So it's like I'm going to work. I'm going to LA or I'm going to Vegas to do some work. Are you shooting videos or you beating on people? that's what
Both.
that's how she asked.
There was two situations that we did this exact same thing, but our response and reaction to it were completely different. There was one time you were on set and you were sending me a BTS photo.
Oh my god.
And you accidentally sent it in our group message. Maybe it was our group message.
No, I accidentally
You just
sent it to my mom.
Oh, so you must have sent me a screenshot or something.
Yeah, I sent you a screenshot
mortified.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Look what I did. Because also, see, my mother also is visually impaired.
Mm-hmm.
So, trying to get her to do the details of deleting a picture or or a conversation is like virtually impossible. So I'm just like, I called her like, yo, just don't open messages from me until I get home. I was like in Miami.
You were so mortified.
Oh man, it was the worst.
She was so cool about it.
She was like, she was cracking jokes.
She was so cool about it. Now, I did the same thing. I sent a screenshot of, I think, our website, or I sent a link to our website.
Yes.
Accidentally to my mom. Thank God the kids were over there, the teenagers at the time, and I told the one that is the fastest on her feet, get her phone right now and delete it. Get it. She's like, how am I supposed to get her phone? I was like, do whatever you need to do, but get it. Get it now. She thought she had jokes. Our daughter had jokes, and thankfully my mom did not
follow that link. That'd be wow.
That's funny. But yeah, so our parents know, and they are supportive in their own ways.
Yeah.
All right, so here's another one. How did we feel about having kids prior to being in the profession? About having kids prior to being in the profession.
Like how do we feel about having kids prior to? I mean, I've wanted to be a father longer than I've wanted to be anything else, because my father's real shitty. So I was like, I need to do this to do this right for somebody. You know what I'm saying? So, even before I was in the profession, I was like, one day I want to have a family. And even when I started, and I started being in porn when I was 18. You know what I'm saying? So it was never something that for me that I was just like, nah, I'm gonna put that on the back burner. It's just more like the right person, you know what I'm saying, then it'll happen, and it did.
Yeah. Well, I got into the industry like professionally after I had kids already. So, and unlike you, I didn't really have plans of being a fam. Like, I actually was running from that. It's like so bad. Did not. I didn't think that I wanted children, or at least not as early as I did. I thought maybe that might be something later on. So that was a part of it. Did, how do I want to say it? Like, it did weigh in on entering the industry, but not like, am I going to do it or not? More along the lines of like, how am I going to do it?
Yeah.
Because the kids have never, they always are of consideration in any decision that I make, but they're not the deciding factor.
I think that's important for parents of any profession, any walk of life, or in anything. Because I see a lot of people who blame their kids for all types of shit that ain't got nothing to do with their kids. Like, that's your decision to make. That's not your kids who made that decision for you. If you really wanted to or didn't want to do that thing, you would have
figured out a way.
Made the right combination of moves to make sure that shit did or didn't happen. Absolutely,
yeah. And I don't think it's fair to yourself. But it certainly isn't fair to your children to say that your outcome in life was because of them, or
because then it's resentful.
Absolutely. And I didn't. I knew that I wanted to try this out. I knew I wanted to have like this other side of me be actualized, but I didn't want to hurt my children. I didn't want to hinder myself. So it was more along the lines of like, well, how can I do this in a way? And I chose the honest route, and the slow and steady route too. So let's see. Okay, I love this one. The joy. And we had this conversation actually a night or two ago, somewhat. the joys and difficulties, at least, of having children. But the joys and difficulties of having children, even if porn wasn't the profession.
I mean, I think the joy is truly like just watching somebody grow into their own self, and you know, there's difficulties in growth. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They're growing pains for a reason. But you know, seeing someone actualize a dream, or I don't know, it doesn't even have to be like the biggest dream in the world, but like just for our 4-year-old, we took him to dinosaur world, right? And he is completely obsessed with dinosaurs. But like to take him there and like he's pointing the dinosaurs out to us, like that's a raptor. He eats meat. That's Spinosaurus. Like dinosaurs. I know this one dinosaur. He said I don't even remember the name, but he knew the name. And I was just like, oh man, like watching them just pull in information and then apply that shit into their world it's fascinating to watch. I love it.
I think one of that definitely is the joy, and it's such an honor, right, to like to be a part of that. I think there's also a lot of joy in watching yourself grow, where you know, like I didn't have sort of the same trajectory on life. Like, I'm gonna be a great mom. I'm gonna be this kind of mom. But then this mom was like, oh my gosh, like I did that. Not just like having them, but like I really rode that out with you, or like we got through high school. Ooh, you know, like and there's a pride that I didn't understand that you know, that you can have in another person's accomplishment until having a child, and it's like really over small and big things, you know, that it's just like, wow, like I don't know, like I breathed into that, you know. The difficult, all of it is difficult. It's all difficult, regardless of the profession. I mean, just like waking up at night and changing somebody's shitty diaper, like that's difficult. It's hard to discipline yourself to put someone before you at all times, at all costs. It's difficult to juggle the many things that we want to do in life. You know, like how we were talking about like a upcoming tour, and we're like, oh, that'll be great, and then we'll go there, and then we'll go there, and we'll do this, and then we're like, okay, but like how do we do this with like 2 car seats and you know 3 different personalities? That part feels that is difficult, and I wouldn't change the difficult aspects for the joy. But I don't think that I think sometimes people can have unrealistic expectations around like how difficult that shit is.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, joy isn't a constant. Because if joy was the constant, you wouldn't even really appreciate that shit.
Right.
You know, and difficulties aren't the constant either. So
True.
It makes you appreciate those for what they are as well. And I think the difficult thing for me is, oh, good one. The difficult thing for me is, it's like, you know, you want the best for them. So it's like, I don't want you to make this mistake. I know you're about to make this mistake. Why are you making this fucking mistake right now? Like, and it's like you wanna jump in, but you also know, like, for their overall growth and down the line, they have to experience some of those falls and pitfalls to know how to brush themselves off and keep it moving. So it's like, when do I step in? Or do I step in? Do I not step in? Like, how do I let them know that I'm here if they need me to step in? Like, those are the parts that's difficult, because it's like, yo, I'm not talking about like falling off a bike and scraping your knee. I'm talking about like a mistake that your kid can make that you're like, yo, this is gonna affect you down the line bad, yo. Like, this shit is for real, you know. So like those kind of things, those are the ones where, like, to me it's really difficult, where it's like, you gotta let them do it, you gotta just let it happen. But you be like
you about to
like
double dutch.
You want to jump in and take the bullet for them at all times, and you can't, because it's gonna be a day that I'm not here. or that I might not be able to get to them as fast as I need to, and they got to be able to handle themselves in that moment or throughout the rest of their life on their own.
Woo.
Oh,
Now,
that was a heavy ass question right there.
how does that pertain to? And I'm going to put these two together because I think the joys and difficulties of having children, specifically as a porn performer, but this sort of merges that together. How has sex work, the profession of sex work, changed our parenting style? And so I'll jump right into this one. I think I have gotten so critical of my parenting style because I'm in the industry, because of how other people judge people that are in the industry. So now, granted, I think that our parenting style is better. Like, I think being critical of yourself as a parent is important, and I think that you should, be checking yourself. And are you doing, you don't want to be screaming on your kids if you could avoid screaming on your kids at any point in time. But I think there's an added layer of like, I want to raise my voice right now, but I have to be mindful because someone thinks I'm an unfit parent already. And now any little thing is sort of just like being black. When you like, I want to go in that store, but let me just go ahead and leave this book bag in the car because somebody already think I'm a damn thief. And I don't have no intentions on stealing nothing but. And so, for us, it's like a joke or, not even something that as serious as like or not even serious, but something like raising your voice or like a particular joke or like, what are we talking about on the podcast today? Would anybody think that it's totally inappropriate for us to have this conversation in front of a child that we know does not understand anything that we are saying? You know what I mean? What kind of, anyone should be able to have sex toys in their home, right? Because it's an adult toy. It's not illegal to have that. But as a performer, how could this be construed in a way that could potentially harm, like, the flow of my household? And we have had colleagues that have had their children taken away or have been threatened to have their children taken away or had traumatic experiences where their parenting style was called into question, not because of their parenting style, but because of their profession. And I don't ever want us to be in anything close to that situation. So I do think I can be overly critical of like our environment, how we parent, what I say, what I don't say, who I share certain things with, all that kind of stuff.
That's real. I think for me, being that I was in the profession already before, I feel like between this and my music career, like come into contact with not all, but most types of humans. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no matter what kind of children I was going to have, I feel like I would have some kind of understanding on just not so much what make them tick, but who they are in a sense, and not that we see all the time in adults in what we see in kids, but like there is that growth that's there. So I think like in that it's made me more understanding of humanity. I think that's the best way to put it. Like more understanding of humanity and more understanding of just people and what motivates them and what moves them and things like that. So whether it's whatever I need to share with my kids, like, oh, this the kind of person you coming in contact with, well, this person moves this way, or that. And then also I've just always been working in some shape, form, or fashion. So it's like not that they need to go into my profession, but I understand that there's a way to make a living in anything that you can imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know, like going back to our son, like you love dinosaurs. Well, there's a million ways you can make money. You don't particularly have to go to school to be a paleontologist. You can, I don't know, make fucking TikToks with dinosaur toys or some shit. You know what I mean? Like there's so many ways, and I think that because of our profession and our profession does force you to think of so many different avenues for revenue streams that you can apply that to other professions as well. So I think that always comes into play where like, oh yeah, you could do that shit. Like, who would have thought I would do what I do for a living? Like, come on, like, what is it that you want to do? You could do that shit.
I definitely think that I have seen a total shift in myself in that way because of the people that we've met in the industry and the people that we've become in the industry. That ways I definitely started off parenting at like, you need to do this the same route that I took, because you need these things to fall back on. You need this, and now I feel a lot more like you. Like there are so many ways, and like you got you to fall back on. Like so. Yeah, that's definitely a positive, a huge positive aspect. And then also just like the openness, like being able to meet so many people in this industry that are incredible, that are really wonderful, and have such varied lifestyles and interesting ways in which they've come to being the wonderful person that they are, has really allowed me to really envision that for our children. Just like, are you a good person? Are you nice to people? Do you show up to work clean and ready to go? Like, then awesome. I don't
for whatever industry you in.
Yeah, I don't really care how many years of school you've put in or what respectability politics, or if you have read all of these particular books to show up in the world in a particular way. Are you a good person? Are you nice to work with?
Word.
Yeah, it's pretty good standards. They're hard standards to meet though. Let's see what else we got here. I love these questions. They're great. Benefits of finding a partner that is in the same profession. So as long as I've been in this profession, I've been with you. When I've dipped and dabbled, I have definitely had, like when I danced at a club, somebody that was like all for the money, but not for the show. And then I definitely have been with a partner that did not want me to speak about that past. It was like something you did, and I knew that I couldn't revisit it if I wanted to. So that, I think it makes all the difference in the world to have a partner that's in the same profession for me.
Absolutely. Because then you're able to be your full self.
Yeah.
I've had relationships where, people were same kind of thing, like money's good or whatever. They enjoy the fruits of the labor, but don't want to know how you pick them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, and then also, people carry their own shame. So like I have, like there was a time when I had taken a break from adult entertainment, and I was doing like a different kind of gig or whatever, and even like with the music shit, where it's like people was just like, that's what you do. And then if you want to talk about the other shit, mad uncomfortable. And it's just like, well, now you're trying to cut off a part of who I am. So it makes it easier. And then also, when somebody's in the industry that you're in, they understand some of what you're dealing with. And I think that would go for anything.
Right.
If we were both investment bankers, and I was like, yo, this investment banking is stressing me out, you'd be able to say, hey, well, break shit down, and I think it's like that with our profession, because we're able to provide, even if we're not working on the same project together, we're able to provide each other with some ideas to maybe make that shit more streamed.
More better. Do you think that, you had a very open childhood, at least with your mom being able to learn about sex and to talk about sex, and I had the complete opposite. But do you think that for our children that they're any more understanding about sex than perhaps like just kind of thinking about you and or kids from your generation? Based on
I think so for sure.
Their experience as children of entertainers.
I think that not only because of the entertainment aspect and, and the profession that we're in, but also the kind of people that we are, we're very much like, you can talk to me about anything. You can ask me any kind of question. And if I can't answer it, I can at least point you in a direction to get the information or talk to somebody who can answer your question. So I think on that level, they definitely... But I will say this, with one of our kids, just the nature of how she is, she's uncomfortable talking about sex, period. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if that is because of what we do or just because, you know, that's just kind of how she is. And I think that, you know, you would be able to answer that a little bit better. But I think that in that sense, like, we're not going to shy away from certain things that I think other people might shy away from having conversations with their kids about.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's important, that there isn't an assumption that, like, you have to be a certain type, that you have to be a certain type of comfortable about sex to raise children that are comfortable. You know, I think exactly what you said in terms of, like, sex is one topic, you know,
Word.
one aspect of our lives. And just like our work is one aspect of our lives. It's okay. It's okay. You could talk to us about anything, but just not now, okay? I think that it is that people do kind of put sex as this sort of so much weight on it. And I would hope that regardless of what kind of work we did, that we would be able to have the fluid and comfortable conversations around sex. I think that our kids knowing how free we are about our own sex does allow them to be more comfortable. Just by, you know, it's sort of like you said about anything. I mean, I guess if, you know, we were really interested, well, we are, but like we were, if our work was about travel, they would be that much more exposed to the world of travel, or that being a possibility for them. I think that our second child is so much more open than she was, and so sort of like watching her pace herself to being comfortable at her own pace has been, and part of that is like us not throwing our profession, or like, we're comfortable so you should be comfortable. We're not like that. And so it happening at her own pace, it feels so, it feels nice, you know, that it's like, okay, we're not rushing her, but she has heard the gems that we've dropped over the years. And I feel really confident that she will be comfortable to assert herself in her relationships. And also that she won't be rushed or peer pressured into things that she's not comfortable with. So now, go ahead.
I think with any profession, you don't particularly expect your kid to do what it is you do. Right. And you hope that the things that benefit them from your work is for them to be provided with opportunities that maybe you didn't have when you were younger. And that could just be from the sense of like knowing that it is okay to be whoever you want to be.
Right.
You do not have to be like our oldest is very monogamous. We're like, oh, you're insulting us because you're not poly,
right,
or something like that. You know, it's no, we accept you for who you are and want you to be free to be who you are. You know what I'm saying? And explore whatever it is you want to explore, as long as you're knowledgeable and safe. You know what I mean?
And to me, you know, that makes me even more comfortable in her decision. Like you said, like, I mean, we don't have control over those decisions, but we certainly can feel challenged by them. But it makes me feel comfortable because she has different models to be able to say like, no, I really am very much monogamous. And it's not because I don't know what else exists. It's not because I've been socialized to be a particular way. I see your example. I see Auntie so-and-so's example. I see the people that, you know, that I've met over the years, but I'm this way.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, you know, the same for our children in terms of sexuality, their sexual orientation, their gender identity, they have been able to see different models of that, whether through our discussion about people that we've met, that we've worked with. We've been through people's transition at work where they've been friends of, like, we consider them family friends. And so our kids are able to see, like, this is an option.
Yeah.
So I do think our work has brought in, the same way it's brought in our perspective of types of people that we've come and encountered, lifestyles. It has also brought in those opportunities for them to have, like, choices. And they see how open we are to people and their choices, where we're not. I think one of the ways that also helps them be more open about sex, sexuality, gender identity, and orientation is they don't have the barrier of judgment in their face of their parents. Like, what are my parents going to think? It's like, you already know what we think.
We love you.
Yeah, did you do the dishes?
Word. And I think that is, like, the most important thing you can do as a parent is love your kids. No matter what.
It's beautiful. So, okay, there's one more, and I know why this may seem, especially in the day of the pandemic, working from home, why this question may come up about the separation that we have between sex work and family. You know, this was one of the ways that we had to really, like, oh shit, like, we have to work from home. How do we work, or how do we not work from home but do it safely during this time? And so, you know, we watched lots of families that weren't in sex work struggle with having that separation between work and family, but so specifically with sex work because it is adult work.
Yep.
And so the question is, how much separation do we have between sex work and family?
As much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
She said, word. No, I mean, I think, you know, times when we had to, during the pandemic, send the kids to your mothers and things of that nature, but also going and working on the road.
Yeah.
And being away, and when it's time to be home, then it's time to be home and deal with the family stuff that we do there when we're there. You know, I think it's not really one of those things that, you know, not like sitting there editing, hanging out with the kids, because that would be completely inappropriate. You know, so it's definitely one of those things where it's like only can happen within its time. It's one of those kind of professions. So for me, that was good, because then it's just like I edit when I can edit, but this other time now, family's up. I'm in complete family mode. So I like that.
Yeah, I definitely, it allows us to shut work off. It forces us to shut work off. And then also when it is time to work, we are very much focused on our work.
And it's looking like Royal is like, it is time
to make that
to
separation.
shut off work right now.
Can you tell the people where to find you?
You can find us on Instagram, Royal Fetish Radio.
Sex Positive Parenting.
Sex Positive Parenting. You can find us on Spotify. You used to be able to find us on Shopify.
And then we got kicked over there. How do you get kicked off of Shopify? That's another episode.
Yep,
censorship.
We need to talk about censorship.
You can find us on Twitter, Royal Fet Radio.
Oh, you remembered that one? That was the one I was searching my memory.
No, we just have a really great producer that is feeding me lines. Actually, this whole thing, all my answers are there. Orlando's
You reading
answers.
a teleprompter?
Yes.
I'm gonna mess with your shit like Ron Burgundy next time. But
everywhere you listen to podcasts.
All of them places.
That wasn't me either.
But yo, definitely check out RoyalFetishXXX.com, KingdomRXXX.com, and the fans and all them good spots as well. I'm supposed to look in the camera every time, but I was zoning out. I was like getting the groove. I was about to do that shit that the singers do when they be holding their ear and shit. I was in a moment.
You was about to hit a high note? Hold on, Mariah.
I was about to break glass in this bit.
I'm the skinny legend around here.
But yo, definitely keep rocking with us. Royal Fetish Radio, porn and politics. We have sex all around the clock. That's what Orlando told me to say.
No, he didn't. He says
we talk about sex
And life.
And life before and after dark.
There
Quiet storm.
Get me
That's
out
what it's
this
like
shit.
to be a parent. You be trying to have your moment and your kid snatches it from you.
Royal Fetish.